You all here once again joining us today for another session, a tech talk. And today we have Akshay Tandon with us, who has over 15 years of experience in tech and product, and he has worked with Airtel and Tata 1MG and all, and currently he's working with Fitsol on sustainability and logistics. So I'll at this point I'll like Akshay to take over and help like introduce us more about what he has been doing and all.
Sure. Thanks, Ramesh, for having me. Thanks, everyone. Just quick background of mine. So I'm the CTO and co-founder of Fitsol. Prior to this, as Ramesh said, I've worked with multiple organizations in the past. Started my career as a Java developer at Infosys. I worked there for almost 2 years before going on to do my MBA, which I thought was the good idea to do at that particular time. But yeah, looking back, probably did not help so much. Technology was always something that was, very interesting and something that I wanted to be very close to. Post my MBA, I got to work in general management roles, and but fortunately, I got a role which was very close to my liking, wherein I did a lot of tech consulting and digital transformation projects across India, Middle East, and so on. So, which gave me a lot of breadth and understanding of different technologies that are happening and shaping the world and business decisions as well. uh, Post consulting, it was very natural for me to become a tech product manager, and that is what I moved into. I started working with a company called Max Insurance, where they were building their product team as such, and I was the first hire looking into product innovation specifically. The idea was to bring in, work with startups who are solving some peculiar insurance related use cases and leveraging AI and ML, and this was way back around 9 years ago, when I got a chance to work with some of these startups which are really big now. Many of them are unicorns already, and we were their first, second, third type customers who were doing POCs, pilots with us at that point of time, which the current stage we are in right now. So very fortunate to work with such visionary startups and all, and very happy to see their success, and worked across the different projects within the insurance value chain. That also gave me a lot of flavor around how technology is evolving. And then I moved into a very core tech product management role where at Airtel, where I was working on their eSIM product, the embedded SIM product, where I worked on both backend as well as right from developing the infrastructure that is required to for the profile management and all, till the customer facing use cases and all. So that was very interesting. First time I got to work on a hardware related product, which was, and then building a software layer on top of it. So that was also very interesting. And then finally, I moved into Tata 1MG, where I was leading their B2B product. The idea was to, so Tata 1MG being an e-commerce B2C focused organization that time, not today anymore, but they wanted to sort of bring in B2B use cases where they wanted to build products like corporate wellness programs, pre-policy medical checkups, and so on, right? So again, a lot of my past experience helped me, sort of scale on that front. We had a small team. Post I left, now it has grown, and it's a very large team, 100 odd folks in just B2B product. Earlier, they used to be, I think, 10, 15 odd folks. So has heavily grown. And now Fitsol. So Fitsol happened. The entrepreneur inside me, and we had been discussing that we had to start something of our own. Me and my batchmate Anand, who's the co-founder, he was working with a company called Motherson Group before starting Fitsol, and there he was heading their global logistics and packaging vertical. where they had gotten some charter to decarbonize that particular vertical. And when he went out to the market to identify people or startups who could help him, he did not find anyone which was really into it. And that is where he thought that this is an unexplored arena, and sustainability is picking up. Let's start building something around it. So he left his job and he started a solution services organization around this. And when he understood in a couple of 3 to 4 months, he got to understand that there is a significant need of tech without which it cannot be scaled. And we had been talking already. We are batchmates. We know each other for last 14 years, 15 years. So it was like कि यार करते हैं कुछ इस पे. So and that is when it started. We started. I was still working with 1MG, and we hired. So I was not a founder then, but I was helping him because I was already in my job. So technically, I was not the founder.
I mean, that's how every startup works, right? Starts rather. You
Right.
gotta figure out those uh, hours, I would say,
Yeah,
from
yeah.
your
And
weekends.
doing a double job is like takes a toll, and especially when you have a family, and so you're not young anymore, right? So I'm not young. I'm 38 years old, right? So I have family. I have 2 kids. So everybody needs time as well, right? So doing that with my job, starting trying to build a startup and figuring out whether this is the right jump for me was another experience. I'll talk about it a little more, but just to complete the experience part of it, that is what happened. And then we hired an agency who could help us to kickstart the entire process, setting things up. 2 3 developers who were working with us, and then we built the base model. A very very MVP का भी MVP बनाया हमने कि भाई कुछ तो लॉन्च करते हैं, right? So that we worked 2 3 months. We were able to go into the market, get some traction over there, did some pilots, and we thought that yes, this can work and this will scale. And then that is when I also resigned and then joined Fitsol as co-founder and CTO. And then since then, there has been no turning back. We've been growing almost 3x every year.
So,
So
what does actually Fitsol do for
right.
our audience? A quick
Right.
intro.
So, thanks, Ramesh. I will add that context as well. So, at Fitsol, we are trying to, so everybody of us understand how climate change is happening. There is a lot of discussion and news going around it, right? Trump pulling out of Paris Agreement, which is trying to bring or keep the average temperature increase less than 1.5 degrees Celsius. If it increases beyond 2 degrees Celsius, then it will be a point of no return for us, right? Because then whatever things have happened, we will not be able to reverse it. It will be an irreversible damage to our earth, right? So having said that, now if we are not sustainable as business, any business for that matter, right? If we are not sustainable, then it is going to be a travesty for our future generation, right? Which we would not want. And both me and Anand, we have children, right? So we always wanted also to have a better life for our future generation, to ensure that. And how would we do that? So that is why sustainability is a key focus, an emerging key focus globally, and for India too. As a developing organization, we are developing a country. We are a little slow on that front, but we are coming to terms with it, right? So. Sustainability as a construct, right? In that, the most important aspect is greenhouse gas emissions. Right now, we are on this, podcast, right? So here we are. Everybody is using their maybe some device to connect. Internet ISPs servers are being used to transmit the data, store the data, and so on, right? All those things require electricity, energy, right? Electricity production predominantly, at least in India, is thermal, coal driven, right? For fossil fuel driven energy production, around 70% of that happens still till date, right? In that releases a lot of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. This is getting accelerated as and when we are using more and more technology. Dependence on electricity is increasing. If we are not introducing more renewable energy, then it will keep increasing the release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Now there are multiple sectors. We can't obviously go and solve for all sectors. There are certain sectors which we understand very well, right? So as founders, we understand manufacturing and their supply chain as a sector very well. So that is where we are focusing now. That helping manufacturing companies to first visualize what is their carbon footprint across the value chain, then helping them understand how they can be compliant if there are certain regulations around it. Once they are compliant, how they can go on a reduction journey, right? How they can decarbonize their entire value chain. The ideal state is net zero. So net zero is defined when, let's say, your baseline year is 2024, and your overall emissions were 100 tons of carbon dioxide. uh, if you achieve 10 tons of carbon dioxide state, that is 90% reduction over your baseline, then you are called net zero, right, as per science based target initiative protocol. So this is what we are helping manufacturing companies specifically achieve.
Oh, right. So, I mean, uh, do you find any kind of technical limitations, when you are building for such a, I mean, this is a very difficult problem in that sense because it has too many moving parts, as in there
Mhm.
are humans involved in every step, and again legacy systems and bringing things uh, uh, up to the mark is not so easy when there are different kinds of stakeholders in picture. So, I mean, while all those things stay there, I mean, what other technical limitations that you came across when solving for this?
Right. So I can go on about this, but I will try to be very contextual here. So there are a lot of technical challenges. This is what I mean. Essentially, if you see, in essence, we need spend or activity data from customers who we work with, right? So spend would be something like that. I spend 100 rupees on, let's say, diesel, right? Or I purchased 5 liters of diesel for a genset in my warehouse, right? So this is, and so the earlier one was a spend, and the other one is an activity data point, right? Now, typically these transactions are available in the ERP system for any organization, right? Maybe or maybe not most of the. So what we have seen in India, at least across manufacturing organization, the ERP, the digital penetration is less than 50%, right? So which means that 50% of large manufacturers might not even have an ERP in place. So having said that, how do you get this data? So the first technical limitation is getting the quality data for doing that analysis, for visualizing what is your baseline, what is your carbon footprint, and so on, right? uh, and then it does not stop there. Even if you have an ERP system, it might be multiple types. All the different systems have their own schema, right? So how do you translate it to your own schema that your platform understands, that your architecture understands? So these are the most important challenges that we are sort of trying to solve. The other challenge is not only the manufacturing organization. So what happens for any manufacturing company, most of their footprint is in supply chain, which means it is supplier led, right? Which means let's say I am an automobile manufacturer, right? Like Maruti has 400 tier 1 suppliers, which means they are bringing parts from 400 different vendors and then assembling it, little bit of processing, and then assembling it on their assembly line. Now let's say I am buying gearbox from a particular manufacturer, or maybe engine from some other manufacturer, right? uh, or brake pads, anything that you can think from a mechanical engineer point of view, right? Whatever I'm getting, it is a finished component, right? Now,
Exactly.
how it has been produced, or what energy it has consumed, will be available with that particular supplier. So, how do you enable your customer to get this data from their supplier as well? So, we are solving that. How do we ensure that the suppliers are also getting access? So, we are building a multi tenant architecture where suppliers are also getting access to our platform by being associated with our customers and are able to provide data on our platform, which is clean. So, what we're trying to solve is traceability part with this. So, where that steel or that ore has come, that is being used in a Baleno car for Maruti. is the chain that we want to create, and that kind of data that we want to generate for all the types of use cases. Like we are talking about automobile, we will talk about textile, we can talk about chemical manufacturing, we can talk about steel manufacturing, and so on. Every industry has their own nuances, but we are trying to map all this across value chain, supply chain, and get this data. So again, coming back to your question, Ramesh, the biggest challenge is data availability. That is on the actual use case that we are trying to build. But if I
Exactly.
go and start talking about building the model, or even building the test use cases and so on, right, there are no data points available for sustainability, right? Very limited data point which are structured in nature, right? So that is also we are working on the how to sort of generate synthetic data or crawl a lot of data and then bring it into our db, mongo or vector and so on, right? So this is something that we are also trying to solve, but these are challenges, and the only way we will solve these challenges is by working with some companies in some industries, go deep, solve it, come out, then solve for others. So it's a step by step process, will take some time, but yeah, we are on it.
So, quick question, Aditya has asked, like, how do you make sure that your system follows different countries, different regulations, and all?
Right. So as I said, right. In India, multiple ERP. So again, multiple schemas exist, right? But let's say, for example, we are talking about now we are bringing another complexity, right, which is regulations, right? So in country specific, geography specific regulation, which are like Europe or Southeast Asia or China or US, right? So what we are doing is we are sifting, as I said, we are crawling through a lot of these sustainability disclosures, which are done by organizations within those geographies. We
Right.
take synthesized data from there, we clean it up, and then we chunk it for different use cases. So, for example, if I want to look at only, so regulations are like checklists, right? So you should need to
Right.
have this. These are the rules and disclosures. You need to disclose this. You need to disclose that, and so on, right?
Right.
Now, that checklist is on one side, the disclosures are on the other side, right? And then there are human intervention also. So we have a very strong ES sustainability team in house, and we have done tie-ups with IIT Kanpur also recently to research work in this area to develop indigenous emission data points. However, what happens is once this data is chunked and then we have an internal rack, we have not exposed it globally because again hallucinations, right? So right now what we are doing is we are using a lot of this internally, then giving it human feedback to improve its outcomes. So this is something we are doing to uh, uh, sort of solve the inter geography challenges. And on the schema part also, we are solving similarly. So we are writing automated ETL pipelines where we don't need to write a transformation layer. And as soon as a report or an unstructured data, let's say utility bills are coming to us, invoices, contracts, power purchase agreements, all these things, when they come to us, unstructured data or structured data like JSON, CSV, coming from ERP and all, when it comes to us, we just translate it. We do customer involved, customer assisted training for first few entries, and then we ingest the data into our schema. So that is something that we're also doing, which is reducing our integration timeline also. So these are certain things. I can't go deep dive into it. So with
No, no, no. But I totally understand. I mean, effectively, when you're standardizing the schema, you have to look at it from a variety of different angles.
absolutely, absolutely.
And I mean, if you're one of the biggest or one of the best outcomes of LLMs these days
Mm,
is creating that understanding from unstructured data and
absolutely.
then figuring it out. So, one common problem that often is being talked about is whenever you are converting unstructured data to structured data, sometimes LLMs hallucinate. So, like you also mentioned in a couple of sentences, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, how do you really tackle such hallucinations for LLMs? I mean, Through prompting, or is it through fine tuning?
Yeah, so there are multiple ways to do it, right? Definitely, both work, right? But right now we are relying on human reinforced learning, so human assisted reinforced learning. So essentially, the idea is that, and then obviously, then it goes back, and then you can improve prompts, you can change the weights, and then tailor the outcomes for. So currently, like, we are using LLMs like Claude, and then there are multiple SLMs also we are using for different use cases. The idea is that um, with the synthetic data that we are generating, it's not actually synthetic, if you see, because we are looking at already verified and audited disclosures globally, and then using it to sort of figure out what works and what doesn't work. However, with this input already going into the model and then giving them, think of it this way. Let me paint a picture for you. Let's say I ask an organization, the question that they need to answer is uh, whether you have implemented uh, uh, code of conduct policy within your organization or not, and if yes, please provide the salient points, right? So let's say this is a question, right? So it has two types. If I break down this question into, I deconstruct this query, uh, one part is asking yes or no, right? Deterministic, right? Whether you have it or you don't have it, very simple. Second part is, give me the summary of it. What all does it cover, right? Your code of conduct policy. Now, the first part is very easy. If I am able to identify a code of conduct policy in your sitemap, right, on your website, and the URL is available, I will fetch it and I can sort of show it to you. But now, when I'm going to summarize it, that is where the challenge will happen, right? When I'm summarizing, I might generate some information which is not part of that code of conduct. So then how do I go about it, right? So this is one part. Second part is, let's say, if I even if I generate and that is a right answer, right? So there will be two aspects that we will have to cover. One aspect is comprehensiveness, and then the second one is correctness. So correctness as a scale would be this. So let's say I answer, someone asks me what is your name, I'll say Akshay, right? But I'm not, but my name is Akshay Tandon, right? That's my complete, that's the
That's
comprehensive answer, right? So even
right.
Akshay is correct, and someone can call me Tandon also, right? Mr. Tandon, Mr. Akshay, all work, right? So having said that, Akshay Tandon both are correct answers, but Akshay Tandon as a single string is the comprehensive and correct answer, right? So maybe for, even if I enter no answer, I will get zero. If I enter Akshay, I might get one. If I enter Tandon, I might get one. If I enter Akshay Tandon, I will get four. If I enter A Tandon, I might get three. If I enter Akshay T, then I get three. So you are getting what I'm trying to say, right? So correct answer will get you some marks, uh, and comprehensive answers will give you more marks. The most comprehensive answer. So this is what we are doing right now. We bring out what is the worst answer for a particular query, what is the best answer for a particular query, and then give that as a spectrum to the model to infer. So once you have both the anchor points, if the answer lies between and which side it is going towards, right, the distance to the worst answer versus distance to the best answer, you get a score between 0 to 4, right? So that is what we are trying to sort of build
That's interesting.
internally, right? And that is how
So,
we ensure that there is less and less
so a
hallucination.
lot of it, I'm pretty sure. I mean, you would also need a lot of prompting to manage all these things, right?
Right.
So, how are you kind of I would say able to adhere to various compliances, security compliances or regulatory compliances, and every country sometimes have their own
Hmm.
impact or requirements, regulations. For example, if you're working with Indian government, all data should reside in India,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right? So that implies, and at the same time, companies would also want that the privacy of their data is maintained.
Hmm.
So when you are hitting LLMs,
Hmm.
how are those compliances brought about? And purely from a technical standpoint, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Sure. It is simple, right? So most of these organizations, if you see AWS, they have an India instance, right? Be it GCP, Azure, all of them have India instances already. So if there is a specific country regulation which mandates that data should not go out of the country, then there are instances that you can use within. So within your cloud, you can deploy an instance in Europe, in Germany, in maybe Middle East, UAE, in India, Bombay, Delhi. There are multiple instances available. Whichever you want to choose, you can choose. So that is how you do it. Second part is obviously accreditations matter. So we are already ISO 27001 to 2022 certified, which ensures that there is a significant level of data security in place. From other countries, other geographies, like we are already, our final audit for GDPR and SOC 2 accreditation is already done, so we'll get that certification. The idea is that you have all these mechanisms in place so that there is a significant level of credibility that you create towards your customers, uh, and also ensure that wherever you are getting these compliances from done, like there will be third party auditors and consultants who would come in and do gap assessments for you, right? Ensure that they have significant credibility. Otherwise they would just come in and say कि यार ये change कर दो, ये ऐसी document बना दो, ये दे दो, मैं manage कर लूंगा. So don't manage these compliances because these are really important. And it also gives you a complete visibility of your entire infrastructure, whether there are any vulnerabilities or not. So that is very important. So these are the two ways in terms of that. Another aspect that customers and government is also sort of like, whenever you from a customer lens, I will take customer lens only, that if you're using public APIs of these LLMs, then if someone is giving me their raw material data, how much they are procuring, when they are procuring, and then I'm giving it to a public LLM for querying and inferring, then it's not right thing to do, right? So you need
Definitely.
to ensure that these are
Enterprise plans.
deployed, yeah, deployed on your instances, right? And then you are fine tuning it and then using it, right? So again, but cost becomes a consideration here, right? How, like, if you use like, if your queries are using a large number of tokens, your cost will just shoot up. So you have to ensure that based on your use case, which models, maybe LLM, maybe SLM, right? So there are multiple SLMs also there out there which you can use, which might not cost you so much to run, right? So from a cost perspective, you can figure it out which works best for you, and then accordingly fine tune it to satisfy your use cases.
Okay. So essentially, if I would put Aditya's question also in perspective, so to be able to make sure that if your system is following any particular country's regulations, you would be getting those accreditation agencies on board, and they would be coming and establishing various aspects of those regulations, right?
Correct, correct.
Great. So, I would say, like, if you are looking ahead and you are building such an elaborate and complex system which is going to tackle a lot of legacy data and all that unstructured data, so how are you approaching your software to manage your future technical debt? How are you going about it?
um, या देखो, टेक्निकल डेट तो हर जगह होता है ना, मतलब इट्स नॉट दैट large organizations do not have technical debt, and you can't be visionary enough to ensure that there'll be no technical debt in the future, right? um, uh, as a developer, right? I'll take a developer lens here, right? So uh, as a developer and working in a startup, someone, why would people come to startup other than probably money, ESOPs and all, is a learning, right? Fast paced learning. आज ये कर रहे हैं, कल कुछ और बना दिया, परसों कुछ और बना दिया, right? कस्टमर
Definitely.
आया, उसने बोला ये बंद करो, ये करो, right? So when you are in such a fast-paced, dynamic environment, right, you get to learn a lot of things at the at a very fast pace. So there is a distinction between effective code and efficient code, right? So effective code essentially would mean that my function is supposed to take me from point A to point B. It is taking me from point A to point B. That's about it, right? I don't care about the scalability. Maybe it is scalable as well, but I don't care about the performance of it, right? How fast it is, how optimized that code is, right? How less resources it is using. So from a DevOps point of view, right? So today
Mhm.
also we don't have any DevOps in our organization as of now, right? Because we are not thinking about technical debt and cost consideration as of now, because we want to build, we want to solve
Mhm.
first and then think, यार इसको कैसे ठीक करते हैं. So and it happens, and I'll come to that as well. So while at a startup, and if you are also building your own startup, your focus should be writing effective codes, right? That is the bare minimum basic hygiene. As in when you grow in the organization, or if you work with a with an if, with a mature organization, your focus should be writing efficient codes, right? So that is something that is expected. Uh, but yeah, so this is the distinction, I think, between effective and
So,
efficient code.
so when you're talking of effective and efficient code, just because Taran over here has also asked a question like, how do you handle large amounts of data efficiently? Not directly related, but somewhat. So, how are you guys approaching it?
Right. From a scalability point of view, right? Handling so that the kind of data that you are getting will define your database architecture essentially, right? It could be uh, SQL, NoSQL, vector, right? Whatever. So currently we are using all three, right? Depending on the kind of. So for all the AI use cases and the data that we are crawling, we are using vector DBs anyways, and moving towards a vector, though it is not a very known architecture right now, and we are also experimenting. We are also moving from vector DB to vector data lake. How do we move there, right? How do we build a vector data lake? Um, but having said that, uh, PostgreSQL works very well, right? I don't see
Exactly. I mean, whenever you are thinking about RDB,
correct,
you Postgres, or and it's
correct.
in most of the cases, I believe MySQL also works enough
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah. It works.
complications are not that high or requirements are not that high.
Correct, correct. And use right
So,
partitioning, sharding, those kind of things, right? If your architecture
absolutely.
supports those things, caching and all, ठीक है. मतलब there are multiple things that you can do to ensure that large scale data is very well managed. Uh, but yeah, like it totally depends on your use case also, right? If you are not, don't
Right,
have
right.
any use case, why would you go towards vector DB and all? Right? So yeah.
Absolutely. So that's fair. That's fair. Abhishek over here is also asked, like, how do you decide? This is an interesting question, I guess. How do you decide when to upgrade your tech stack?
Yeah, we don't decide this.
We
It's
just feel the
time to time.
requirement of it when it is
अब लगता है कि यार
there.
इससे नहीं हो रहा है तो बदल देते हैं. So
Exactly. That's how the startups actually work. I mean,
right,
okay, let's do. Now
right.
it's not
So,
working.
why mend something which is not broken, right? So
Absolutely.
that is the only thing. But हाँ लगेगा कि यार नहीं हो रहा है इससे, तो then if new intervention is required, we do that. You bridge also things at times, right? But yeah, there is no plan. Like it's not that कि आज ये event होगा तो फिर ये API कॉल करेंगे, ऐसा नहीं है. So
Right, right. I mean, in a simpler way, what I do about this is essentially you don't think about changing your tech stack unless and until the solution requires
hmm, hmm,
capabilities which are not supported by your current one. For
correct.
example, if you have built a simple chat website which uses polling,
Hmm,
and tomorrow you have a lot more customers or
hmm,
a real time requirement, you would go about, okay, let's go with WebSockets.
correct.
So, and then WebSockets would imply if you have built your site in PHP, then oh, let's switch to Node.js. So things like those small little things are always
Yeah, yeah,
driven by solutions or driven by customer requirements.
yeah. Need of the hour. अगर है लग रहा है तो
Need
कर
of
लो
the
यार.
hour. Exactly. So, so I guess we are also nearing the end of our call. So before we close this, I just wanted to ask a couple of things from you. Just one thing, rather. I'd say, like, what technical skill do you think is the most valuable one when you are building for a like when you are building a team that is at an intersection with AI
Mhm.
and some business objective? I mean, what do you think should really be because we just now talked also about coding efficiently, coding
Hmm,
effectively, right?
hmm, hmm, hmm.
So, how would you build your tech team or technical skills that you would look for in your team?
Right, right. So very important question because when we are building a startup and doing hires, we need to ensure that there is a significant level of accountability and ownership from a hygiene point of view in the people that we are going to hire, and this is across verticals, not only technical. But when it comes to within technical also there are multiple types of roles, right? As a startup, I can't go in. As I said, we don't have a DevOps, we don't even have a QA as of now in our team, right? uh, we only have full stack engineers, right? So that is how you need to start also, right? If you are building your own startup, it's most essential that you hire or you are a full stack engineer. And if you are, let's say, back end heavy or a front end heavy, either way, then you should try to strike a balance, right? You should take more initiative, which something which you're not comfortable towards, right? That is one. Second is now, it was earlier back end, front end, but now with AI and all coming in, right? A lot of AI engineers and ML engineers are also, working along with you, right? Now, full stack would mean that you have these skills as well, right? So currently in our
Essentially.
in our team now, people are we don't have we have AI engineers as well, but the full stack engineers are now doing AI based technology implementation as well. They are also learning how to do data engineering tasks, and also building vector DB pipelines and so on, right? So all those things are happening. They are also, it's also interesting for them, for them to learn new things. But this cross disciplinary collaboration is now moving towards cross disciplinary skill set, right? So earlier we used to collaborate, but I think with AI, and there are many AI tools also coming in, right, which are solving a lot of these problems. So if you want to stay ahead of the curve, right, you have to ensure that you have significant understanding, theoretically at least, of all the new development that is happening, and read at least a paper a week, right? If you are not doing that, then you are significant, like you will fall behind, right? You have to understand the new technological concepts that are coming up, and leverage tools, right? It's, someone would say that, oh, someone is using maybe a Claude to do coding. There is no harm in it as long as you are not copy pasting, right? If
Exactly. I mean, they are your tools. There are those things like pre LM era, there were Stack Overflow engineers and they were getting ridiculed all the time. But at the end of the day, Stack Overflow used to be the best tool on your stack so that you
absolutely
could learn nuances and depth of various things that you are using. And same is going with the AI assisted coding. I believe use it as a tool is what I would also take from what you've said.
correct.
Like use AI as a tool, and that should be your skill rather than blindly copy pasting from
Yeah,
it.
exactly, exactly. So we also use, so back when I was a Java developer, back in 2009, we had something called V3 V3 school, something like that, that used to be there. Then it was replaced by Stack Overflow, and now there are, prompt based code generation, right? But they were always tools. Believe me, we never thought that, this is something that we would depend on. So for example, Stack Overflow, even if you go, or V3 when you used to go, it's like a forum where someone has pasted a problem, and then you go and see different solutions to it. So there, what you are getting in terms of code snippets is different ways of solving the same problem, and then you can choose which one works for you best. So you are putting some intelligence here also. When you're using an AI tool to generate code, you should do the same. Ask it different types of different ways of solving
Approaches.
the same problem, and then pick and choose the best one.
Essentially brainstorm your solution out of it
Absolutely.
rather than
Absolutely.
asking for solution out of it.
Absolutely.
Great discussion with you, Akshay. Thanks a lot for coming on board. And before you leave, would you like to leave a small message for all our viewers?
Sure, sure. I've already said this in the last part of the talk, but uh, keep learning, right? The today's day and age is very dynamic. It's not about front end, back end, DevOps, ML ops. It's not about that. It's all about learning horizontal skills, right? You should be a full stack, predominantly become a full stack. You can have specialization, but be a full stack, right? And
Be a
that
full
is what,
stack all the
yeah,
way.
all the way.
Even that's the same motto we follow at DevBytes as well. So thanks a lot for coming on such a short call. And we hope to see you around more. And
Yes.
all the best for Fitsol,
Yeah.
Akshay.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks for listening in.